Hello and many thanks for joining us on this edition of the program. I am Imoni Amarere. President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday acknowledged what most Nigerians and perhaps non-Nigerians alike have always known about the nature and character of Nigerian politics and its practitioners. He said the nature of politicking in Nigeria is that of, and I quote, very rancorous engagement, while intoning that in the build-up to the 2023 elections, the democratic activities will be necessarily rowdy and very argumentative. The president spoke while receiving letters of credence from ambassadors of some Western, Asian, and African countries. He, however, advised the diplomats and, by extension, their home governments to stay clear of our politics, as he puts it, while ensuring that their activities are guided strictly by the limits of diplomatic practices.
The nature of our politicking often gives the impression of very rancorous engagements. It is the nature of politics here. Besides, democracy and related democratic activities in the build-up to elections are necessarily rowdy and very argumentative, but very much within the limits of freedom of action that the art of democracy permits. As you settle down in the face of these developments, it is my hope that you will also be guided by diplomatic practices to ensure that your activities remain within the limits of your profession.
The president was obviously not speaking in a vacuum. Over time, Nigeria's politics has become war by other means, as Karl von Clausewitz aptly characterized the politics. Winning at all costs is his swan song. Nobody wants to lose, essentially because politics is no longer a vocation, but a full-time profession. There are no sportsmen and women in politics anymore, only conquerors. Besides, politics has become a huge investment with expected commensurate or even higher returns. According to a political thinker, Angadipuram Apadora, the ordinary goal of politics is selfless public service and not the promotion of private, personal, and selfish interests. According to Jeremy Bentham, a political theorist, public office should be sought and held to bring about the greatest happiness of the greatest number. But not so in Nigeria. The political parties, particularly the bigger ones, are racked by divisions and infighting at almost every level. The struggle for control of the levers of the party and its power base is so intense that the courts have become the playground of the politicians and, of course, the judges, their willing collaborators. Some analysts have attributed the state of politics and the political parties in Nigeria to what they describe as the confused, divided, and rancorous ruling class. There's hardly any mainstream political party in Nigeria today that has a settled house. Congresses and conventions are defined by court injunctions, suspensions, violence, and parallel elections, if they can be called elections at all. Experience shows that this state of affairs will dovetail into the 2023 elections. But the bigger concern is that it will be doing so under very difficult conditions of multifaceted security challenges and separatist agitations, as well as a harsh economic crisis. What then can and must be done to bring some order to Nigeria's rowdy politics, rein in the political disruptors, and ensure a peaceful electioneering and transition of power without endangering democracy? Join us as we dissect the issues right after now. Time now to meet our guest analysts on the program today. Three of them. Two of them are with me here in the studio, while the third is joining us virtually via Zoom from Gusau in Zamfara State. Okay, let's get to meet first and foremost Dr. Anas Sani Anka. He's of the Department of History and International Studies, the Federal University in Gusau in Zamfara State. He also teaches comparative politics and international relations. Dr. Anka, thank you so much for joining us. All right, and here in the studio we have Mr. Godi Iyeng. Mr. Iyeng is a journalist turned politician and chairman of a local government in Akwa Ibom State. Thank you so much, Godi, for joining us.
Very glad to be here.
And last but not the least is Alhaji Samaila Jonah. He's a public affairs analyst, and director of strategy and programs of the Coalition of Northern Groups. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. All right, let's begin with you, Dr. Anka. The president's assertion of Nigerian politics being rowdy and very argumentative, did it come to you as a surprise?
Not at all. It has not come to me as a surprise, specifically looking at the political development that characterize political parties and the way they manage their political crisis in Nigeria. From APC to PDP to other minor political parties in the country, you cannot rule out tendency that crisis and the conflict of interest is almost trying to derail political activities and make progression in political parties and political party affairs little bit very difficult. I always emphasize, they keep emphasis by saying APC is a mega party. But if you follow development from the, even ahead of the nationwide Congress, which is characterized by a lot of political crisis and internal friction, you will come to realize that party politics in Nigeria, we are yet to be where we are expected to be. Parties are established based on conventions of norms, terms, principles, and conditions. But you wonder, when parties are established, the manifestos, the rules, conventions, and the principles are always set aside in an attempt to satisfy the interests of very few and influential individuals within the political party. And today, when you talk about APC from Zamfara here, where I speak to my fellow Nigerians up to Abuja, APC is full of crisis everywhere. And when you go into the nitty-gritty aspect of this crisis, you come to realize that the crises are born out of selfish political interests of the so-called power brokers who believe they have the power to manipulate the political development within the party, not only manipulate the political development, but also influence who emerge, regardless of whether it is the wishes and the aspirations of the majority supporters of the party. Example now, when you take Zamfara State, we have learned a lesson of 2019 and what has come out of the political crisis in APC. APC, as a result of its internal political crisis, loses the entire political positions from governor down to state assembly members to PDP. Now, as if that has not been the end, the crisis continues. The governor has joined the party now, which is teaming followers from the PDP. Now, instead of all the people in the APC and the governor to come together and put a common interest on consensus to build the party up, we are having another friction that will be more dangerous than what we experienced in 2019. Go to Kano. Now, it's still a conflict of interest, the governor versus the rest. Now, where the interest lies is the governor trying to influence decision of who emerge, and who do his bidding. The same thing with the other factional party that decided, no, we have no reason whatsoever to support the governor or to support what the governor is doing. After all, he has served the state for 8 years, and he is trying to influence who emerge. That is to continue with the ruling of what we term as political dynasty. Now, if we look at it all over, it has been the same crisis. PDP now, they have opted out to move for convention at the Eagle Square, Abuja, but nobody is sure of what is going to be the condition, because there are which is a contest is already in court and anything may happen. Now, the development here is showing there is more to do in terms of nurturing internal democracy. Political parties are shifting ground from the manifestos and the basis of their establishment to manifestation of serving public interest. And that is actually what is spelling out to the larger leadership recruitment exercise in the country. When you didn't allow the internal process to determine who emerge based on competency, based on capacity, now at the end of the day, certain powers influence who emerge regardless of capacity and competency, and that manifests and translates into the type of leadership we are recruiting into our political position. And that is also manifesting into the product of service delivery, product of dividends of democracy we are delivering to our people. Now, directly or indirectly, our political recruitment mechanism is or has direct bearing to the leadership productivity. We are having crisis at the level of state, socio-political, economic. Why? Because there is leadership incompetency. And what produces the leadership incompetency is the political system we are driving. The political system driven doesn't allow majority people to decide who emerge based on consensus and based on criteria. And this is actually one of the socio-political problems that characterizes political party and party process in Nigeria. So to me, the description by the president, he has made the right assertion. And we had expected that from 2015, when the APC come on board, certain things will transform and make political party development much more matured than what we are experiencing today. To me, and based on general consensus of those who observe political development in Nigeria, nothing has shifted ground from the experience of 2011 and 2015. Political parties are making political development, political survival, and survival of competent people little bit much more harder, because transparent process is not allowed to manifest into political parties. Parties are established on convention and law, as I said, but these laws and conventions are manipulated, set aside to serve the interests of few influential people. And this is telling bad about us. 2023 continue the status of what may likely emerge in 2023 is still darker to the eyes of Nigerians, because with the level of political crisis across all political parties, nobody will be certain that the manifestation of producing competent people to drive the affairs of Nigeria after 2023, nobody will say where we are landing. So I think the crises are manifesting, and nobody needs to be told that political parties are the basis of political crisis in Nigeria. That is our conclusion.
All right. Just stay with us so that we can hear the views from the other analysts here in the studio. Godi, let me come to you now. Why do you think that Nigerian politics and, of course, its practitioners are rowdy, as the president says?
Well, first and foremost, let me say that I was not surprised by the statement credited to Mr. President. And you know what? Because we have a leadership that enjoys speaking from both sides of the mouth. We have a leadership that is blessed with split personality. I would have asked Mr. President, what have you done between 2015 when you came on board and now, with less than 2 years to your exit? What have you done to promote true democratic practices in Nigeria? I have not seen anything. I'm sorry, I'm not here to condemn. But I have not seen anything, and most so all eyes are on Mr. President and his party, the APC, because they are the rulers and managers of Nigeria at the moment. But to say the least, the average Nigerian citizen is disappointed that they have not done anything practically here in Nigeria to promote good democratic culture. Now, you see, the space is rancorous because the practitioners are not disciplined. The space is rancorous because there is no internal democracy. It is crisis everywhere. The political party is a product of the society. Is there any part of the Nigerian space that is not facing crisis? From Lagos to Maiduguri. The government is busy counting how many human beings are killed on a daily basis. From Geshua to Jibia and Katsina, maybe to Malamedori in Jigawa, and maybe to the other parts of especially Northwest and Northeast and North Central now. That is the preoccupation of the government of this nation presently, to count the number of dead bodies recorded on a daily basis. How then do you think that the society will be in peace to promote good democratic culture? We've not seen nothing here.
So assuming that the ruling party, for instance, is, as you put it,
Yes.
Has not shown good example of democratic practices, what prevents the opposition parties, all the other political parties, even the smallest of them all, from leading the way, from leading by example? Why is it that almost, in fact, all of the political parties are in one form of crisis or the other? Divided here, divided up to the world level.
Yes. Where do you have the greatest crisis? I mean, which of the parties has the greatest crisis in Nigeria at the moment? It is the ruling party. In fact, if you want to compare it that way, I think the smaller parties have smaller problems. While the one at the center of governance is having all the problems. In my state alone, Akwa Ibom, we have 31 local government areas. And each of the local government area has 3 chapter chairmen, APC chapter chairmen. Multiply 3 by 31. What do you have? Is that not 93? That's the number of chapter chairmen we have. And each of the wards too has 3. This one has this one. This big man has this one. This one, the national secretary pro tem has this one. The minister, there's a minister of one of the ministries. He has his own faction, another one. And another one, a retired general or army officer has another one. That is the lot of the people. That is what they have visited Nigerians with.
So what does that tell you about the character of the practitioners, of politicians like you?
Well, for us, there are still few of us that are trying to follow the rules. And don't forget that I am managing the least tier of governments. And for us in Akwa Ibom, where I come from in particular, I belong to the ruling party, no pretense about that. We don't have any slightest crisis. We are blessed with a leadership that is cultured. We are blessed with a leadership that is God-fearing. Especially the Governor Udom Emmanuel. We are blessed with a leadership that works in tandem with the expectations and the wishes of the people. But I think the reverse is the case in the case of the ruling party in this country.
Akwa Ibom is only an exception here now,
yes,
for instance,
yes,
in case of your party.
Yes.
But at national level and at other levels, you know very well that your party is in crisis.
Our party is in crisis, very minute, very inconsequential level of crisis in some parts of the country, no doubt about that. But I also believe, and from what I have seen and what others have said, we are very literate by the grace of God. These things are also engineered from even the ruling party at the national level, because they control the machinery of state and all the rest of it. But I am not totally disappointed, because a faulty foundation cannot produce a good superstructure.
Okay, let me take it up from there with Alhaji Samaila Musa. He just talked about a faulty foundation. Now, what do you understand by that? Is that to say, for instance, that the foundation, and Dr. Anka also made reference to that earlier on, is that to say that the foundation of the political parties in Nigeria is what is giving rise to the multifaceted crisis that we see today?
Yeah, well, on one hand, it could be attributed to that, to the faulty foundation of the political parties. But you see, on a larger scale, because I always feel, or I'm of the belief that you can make a change at any point in time. It's about determination. But first and foremost, the reason why this is actually a very Herculean task, or one of the most difficult things to happen in Nigeria of today, is when you see people playing politics devoid of ideologies, no manifesto, no sense of direction anywhere. People are actually interested in politics because they see that is the only easiest means of, money rituals. You understand? That is the only way you can actually amass so much wealth. That is the only way you can be relevant in the society. So people, people or a set of people who are going into politics with that mindset, I do not think there's any or much, thing for them to bring aboard. I mean, you cannot put something on nothing. You understand? There's no content ab initio. You see empty people just coming out. I once heard a governor said to myself and two other friends of ours, because a professor came visiting him from ABU. We're talking about floating a political party at that time. And the man, after entering his vehicle, came out and said, "Sir, Your Excellency, I forgot to mention that before my next visit, I believe the manifesto of the party ought to be ready." And the man the former governor looked at myself and my friends and said, I just laughed and said, "I was governor for 8 years, I don't know the manifesto of my party." So that's a summary of who a Nigerian politician is. He's not the only one. You have several of them. I can tell you 98% of Nigerian politicians don't even know the slogan of their party. You understand? They only remember when at campaign ground when people are saying it, "Oh, okay, this is where we belong." So really, there's so much wrong with our psyche, with our mentality, that it will really take a miracle to fix. And I believe, we can all be praying, for good things. But the set or the caliber of Nigerians that we're actually, we're milling out, I do not see any change. Rather, it will be getting worse. I mean, we have the days of the Tafawa Balewas, the Nnamdi Azikiwes, because since I was a child, I've been hearing the good old days. And up till today, we're still referring to the good old days. You understand? So really, there's not much that is going to happen in that regard. I mean, because we're talking about the statement of the president. There's not much. You see, and one of the things I take home from that statement is he's talking from experience. I mean, after contesting about 4 times for a presidential, you understand? So you can tell he's one of the most authorized persons to speak on that topic because he has seen it all. And unfortunately, he also has gotten himself involved in it, and he not even trying to make any amends. There are people you see that they struggle, they try to see how things will get better at the political party level. He is almost disinterested in what happens at the political party level. And that's why the crisis that is going to happen in APC will supersede all other ones that you have witnessed. Because when you have a leadership that's disinterested in what happens, as far as he's concerned, he has gotten his 8 years, you can kill yourself if you want. I don't care. Because the body language says so. There are instances where we had president in this country that everybody knows that until the president gives us a sense of direction, nobody says jack. Because you understand, they remain firm, resolute, they want to know what is happening, and they are interested in bringing a successor. But once you have this kind of leadership who seems disinterested, you see, so everybody is already saying, I mean, we're probably going to end it here. This union is probably going to end. You understand? So there is no miracle that is going to happen. Unfortunately, we're going to keep managing this until someday that, and unfortunately, let me quickly add, this one is coming at the time that Nigeria has never been at this edge of a precipice like we're having this time around. Across the board, like you rightly mentioned, across the country, virtually everywhere, every nook and cranny of this country is struggling or battling one crisis or the other. You understand? So really, we should just be more prayerful this time around, because if you ask me my projection based on the way APC is going about it, APC might end up bringing an interim government in place, because I do not see any seriousness as to the leadership to say this is the direction we're going. They don't even know yet which zone is going to have it. You understand? So you're going to have series of problems, joining the one that we already have that we're trying to tame, and that is going to actually explode. And in the long run, the man might just say, look, if that's the case, we might just look for an interim person, to steer us out of this crisis. So really, that's my take on most of those issues we're having.
Well, let me turn to Dr. Anka. Dr. Anka, the impression here being created is that the character of Nigerian politics is actually defined by the absence of ideological foundations for the political parties across board. And that's possibly why anyone who comes on board as a leader of the party sees the party as a personal estate, as a personal property, and dictates what happens in the party without following any ideological direction or programmatic direction. Unlike what we had possibly in the Second Republic, for instance, where you knew where, for instance, the UPN stood, you knew where the MPN stood, you knew in fact, the ordinary people knew the programs and philosophies of those political parties. Today, there's hardly any of the existing political parties that you could point at and say, this is what they stand for.
This is very interesting. I would like to call your attention a little bit to 2013, when APC was born out of political merger by some political parties. Based on my experience as someone who came from a politically crisis state, Zamfara state, we knew what transpired after the APC was formed. Here are we having political party that was born out of desire to make sure that power shift from one region of the country to another, a political party that was born out of desire to see somebody at the helm of affairs without necessarily understanding under which philosophy, under which political ideology do we want to drive this political party to make a difference. For instance, after APC came to power in 2015, they came up with the idea of change agenda. We have put in that ideology or the manifest of change agenda in academic context, and we begin to ask, where are these parameters of change? Where are these parameters of change that we people are going to use to assess the performance or otherwise of this political party? Jonathan drive what we call the transformation agenda without indicators actually for us to interpret what agenda is PDP under President Goodluck Jonathan are we driving toward transformation of both the politics, economy, and society in Nigeria. When APC came, I had a course to even discuss this in a seminar. When the crisis in oil deregulation started after Buhari came to power, I presented this issue among academics, politics of oil deregulation and Nigeria's change agenda. We just wake up one day and say, this is what we want to see manifesting in Nigeria, without necessarily putting the whole idea in context. When you look at other developed political parties, they drive their political ideas based on manifestation. These manifestations are not 1 day, 2 day, or 1 year manifestations. These are long-term manifestations that are tied into structural and socio-economic and political development of the country. Sorry for us, when you talk to a typical APC person in Nigeria, he will be more conversant with the constitution of the APC, with the clauses contained in the constitution of the APC, because these are clauses that interpret situation of crisis, meaning people knew that the political party is running toward breeding a political crisis. So people try to become much more conversant with the provisions of APC constitution in the event of management of crisis. Nobody cares to talk about manifestation of APC as a party. What do we intend to provide for Nigerians that will make APC stand unique as a political party? Coming down to states, when you look at APC controlled state in Nigeria, even if they cannot be able to extract any manifestation of socio-economic transformation from the larger agenda of APC as a party, what manifestation do they have at state level to make a difference in terms of leadership, in terms of socio-economic and political transformation? So, number one, in this our contemporary political scenario, we are only interested in trying to emerge or develop political parties that will see to the translation of our political interest and political ambition as governors, as senators, and legislators. But we care not to see to the possibility of developing a manifest draft that defines our socio-political vision as a party, socio-political vision as people who drive under an umbrella of a political party. Comparatively, that is why when you talk to a typical Nigerian, he finds it difficult to differentiate between the manifest or what APC stand to offer different from the PDP, because the larger interest is the person. The larger interest is those that are being nominated by the political party and where they target to reach. And after reaching that particular target, what has come out of the political journey, nobody cares to ask. And this is why we always give emphasis that INEC as a regulatory umpire need to be very, very serious in trying to regulate the number of political parties. There should be more advanced strategy of regulating party registration, so that at least when we have minimal number of political parties, at least Nigerians can sit up to challenge these parties to come up with a manifest that translates into their own larger vision and expectations if they eventually want to choose which political party is to drive which political agenda. But for now, like I may want to concur with the last speaker, that people in Nigeria, our biggest problem is we do politics with target of individualism. We believe an individual can be a solution to a political or social or economic problem of the country. And at least going by this mistake we have done, we have seen what the journey of APC is translating today into Nigeria. Crisis all over, from the northwest to northeast, from the northeast to north central, from north central to the southeast and to the south south. And if you interpret this crisis today, the crisis are clear manifestation of lack of vision. It's a clear manifestation of lack of sense of direction. Because if the party has a sense of direction, which enforce, and the party succeeded in enforcing this sense of direction to those who use the umbrella to emerge, I think we'll have a high sense of control. But for now, individualism suffers. Individualism matters even in the political party formation. That is why in 2013, everything we had during the APC merger is Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Muhammadu Buhari, and the rest, because individual matters. If we accord priority to individual, what if eventually this individual fell in their own attempt to interpret this socio-economic and political crisis into a manifest of a vision that transforms a country? And I think this is a crisis we found ourselves in Nigeria. So I agree with the majority views that political parties in Nigeria are established and driven out of ideas, out of ideology, out of even manifestation that put sense to the hearing and to the understanding of a typical Nigerian person. And this is where the bone of contention lies.
All right. Dr. Onka, stay with us. We'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll be looking at how to make things better and to see if these political parties can be reformed, especially as we move towards the 2023 general elections.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Where a political party is supposed to be organized in such a way that it has a purpose, a larger purpose than its own survival. The political party is supposed to be an avenue towards meeting the aspirations and and benefit what Apadora says, the greater number of the people. It doesn't appear to be so in Nigeria today, or at least of this Fourth Republic. None of the political parties appear to be well placed and well founded to drive that purpose. What do you think needs to be done? We are moving towards 2023.
Yes, as we are moving towards 2023, you should expect more rancor than what you are seeing today. Because the characters, the operators, the practitioners, the promoters of the political parties have nothing in the semblance of sincerity and credibility, not to talk of integrity. These promoters, these newfound Democrats, most of them have no business in the business of politics. We must go back to the basics. The Second Republic that you did mention was not like this. This decay we are witnessing today started on the 31st of December 1983, when the democratically elected government of Alhaji Shehu Shagari was toppled, and anarchy and all sorts of things that are supposed to be in the barracks were brought onto the political scene. You need to allow to develop a good political, a sustainable political culture. You must allow the political parties to make mistakes and correct themselves. Alhaji Shagari was not allowed to make his mistakes and correct them. Rather, people came from the barracks and descended on the stage, on the scene, and drove away. And we went back 20 years behind what was handed over to us by the British colonial masters. This is not the Nigeria that we used to be proud of, that my father, my parents, my grandparents, our grandparents were proud of. When Union Jack was lowered in 1960 and the green took over. This is not that Nigeria any longer. I grew up in the north. From Sokoto, Niger State, Katsina, Kano, Jigawa, and all of that, and ended here in 1993. The best time to travel in the north used to be in the night. Maybe from Goronyo in Sokoto State to Guzau, now in Zamfara. Then in our days it was in Sokoto State. Even Talata Mafra, where Sharia came from. I grew up there. Now, this is no longer that Nigeria. We need to go back to the basics. There's everything wrong about Nigeria. There's everything. And the earliest we face out the present crop of leaders are able to rearrange themselves and exit the scene and allow people that are properly educated, with functional, with evidence of nationalism, patriotism, the better for us. These ones are only after their pockets and the promotion of some certain selfish interest. That's what they are here.
Politics has become an investment.
Yes, that's what they are trying to do. That is all that they are trying to entrench now. There's no culture. None of the political parties has a culture. None of them has. Now, why on earth would they go? A lot of persons, Nigerians, even outside PDP, outside APC, were interested when President Buhari came, that possibly a Daniel has come to judgment, that change has come. But honestly speaking, 99.9% of Nigerians are now praying for God to come down and change the change. Because the change has become monstrous. The change has killed everything that Nigeria used to be known. We were good keepers of our brothers in Nigeria. We were good citizens. We were good Christians or Muslims. But everything about that has changed. Now, the system will get more rancorous. You will see, because it is all, the president said more argumentative, rancor, and so on. You will go and conduct election in Anambra, if not deploy all the soldiers from the barracks in Nigeria and all of that. It will get more argumentative. Go to Ekiti and do election. go to Lagos and do election. The system has been so bastardized that Nigerians are even praying that it would have been better to remain with the British.
I'm sure that's an exaggeration. Alhaji Musa, well, the expectation really was that after 22 years, 22 long years of uninterrupted democratic practices, that the parties would have grown, would have by now imbibed some, what he describes as political culture. But that is absent. And without growth in the political parties, we cannot possibly be expecting growth in the larger democratic society. And so what do we need to do at this point to reset the system?
Okay, I think one of the first things that we need to do is to look at how, or the possibility of, taking the Nigerian politics out of the hands of the money bags. Because solely, I can tell you that after every election, general election year, that 99% of the people elected actually are the money bags who actually have the money to bankroll their elections, or some godfathers actually stood in for them. Now, if you do not take it from, maybe some people feel that's minor. If you do not take it from perhaps minor things as that, then you are in for a bigger problem. Because I do not see how you want to convince someone who paid 50 million to get a ticket for House of Reps to come do any right thing. First and foremost, he needs to recoup his money. So what right thing? What are the people at the party level? Because this whole nonsense starts at the party level. One of our friends, was shortchanged in Bauchi, just sometimes back under this same party, this ruling party. And he ran here to Abuja, and the chairman at the time said, "Where have you been all this while?" He said, "No, I've been in my constituency running up and down to see." He said, "No, all your running up and down should have started on this table and end here. All those jumping you are doing there starts and ends on this table."
So that's the culture of imposition.
Imposition. You understand? And you see, to dig further to know all that jumping the chairman was trying to describe, he asked him to go and bring 15 million naira. That they can still do something is not late. So if I did mean that young man was able to get loan somewhere to drop that money, and he got the ticket, and then he became a honorable member of the National Assembly, these are the people who will further, handle the party tomorrow. I don't know what you want to tell him. There's no any sermon that can make any sense to him, because this is the system that brought him in. You understand? Or this was the system who shortchanged him ab initio before he was able to write whatever it is that goes wrong. So, you see, it will take another miracle to say the people will eventually have a say. Because, the same system has so impoverished the people that to tell them that don't go for the money, go for integrity, is no longer making any sense, because we are talking about the people who are hungry, who people came a night or comes around 2 nights to election and give them 10, 20,000 naira. You want to sermonize what? He will tell you that, but you have seen me all this while that I've been hungry. What have you done? You understand? You didn't even give me loaf of bread. So what do you want to tell me? That, because I need to feed my family as well. And somebody is bringing money to do that. I don't care whatever he does when he gets there. So really, that is a major issue. This issue of money politics in Nigeria is a very key, it's major. And then we come to the issue of godfatherism, which is another major area, because we see a lot of times there are people of integrity who have come to do something, but because they are not endorsed by the godfather of that domain, they can't amount to nothing. I remember sometimes back, maybe around 2007, we had the Nigerian project, and some fellas came from, from the US. 2 of them, they want to contest for Senate in Southeast. And I don't want to mention the name of the journalist who was telling them at the time that, my brother, I'm also an Igbo man. That place you are talking about, you want to go and contest election, are you ready to kill? They were looking at each other, they don't understand. He said, no, are you ready for people to kill on your behalf? They said, no, come on, we're gentlemen. They started, this their English, they said, just forget about it. Pack your bag and go back to the US. Because the politics in that domain is not for innocent people. It's not for saints like you. You understand? You have to be a gutter person to win an election in those domain. And you see, we have all these kind of things all over the country. We once had a godfather in Oyo State that was telling someone who said he was coming for him to bless him, he wants to contest for election. He said, okay, they should check the bag, how much did they bring? They brought, he said, so amount. He said, no, somebody has dropped something better than that. So please, take your bag and not after I go for the highest bidder. And the young man was rolling on the floor begging that he has spent money. He said, no, did you go to any of the markets in Ibadan and see any of my shops? I don't have any other thing I'm eating. This is what we eat. So you as a businessman, you also want to go for the highest profit. That was what he was telling the man. So this is a major. And you cannot take this out of Nigerian politicians or the downtrodden who are actually at the receiving end of whether the consequences of all this rubbish we're having. So it will take another big miracle for this to actually, be set right. So that's unfortunately where we find ourselves.
Godi, as we round up our discussion, do you think that there's anything the Independent National Electoral Commission can do to help the parties stand on a better footing?
Yes, I think the election management body in Nigeria, the INEC, like you've just said, they can do. They register. Let them deregister most of these things. They should. INEC has no business registering a party that is almost non-existent with one room office only in Abuja, only to collect subvention because some money is being doled out to political parties that are registered by INEC. I do not understand. No sane man would understand what nature of business is that one. But INEC can do something by ensuring that there are some integrity checks on promoters of political party, men of questionable character, and they all flood this space, the political space. All there. They have no business registering parties belonging to people that have nothing, that have not shown evidence, like people who say capacity of, in terms of patriotism capacity, they've contributed nothing to nation development. And you go and register political parties for those people, collect some peanut and dole out some subvention at the end of the day, and you have 90-something political parties, 100-some political parties. INEC can do much more than they are doing now. They should check properly. Check even no matter what instrument they want to know, they know that the characters that are parading themselves, even ahead of 2023, those people do not mean well for Nigeria. They have nothing to really offer Nigeria other than recolonizing us, packing all the money from tax consultancy to cattle, owning cattle all over and setting them on the streets of Nigeria and all of that. That's not the Nigeria of the 21st century we are dreaming for. But I know that God loves this country. Most countries in the world have not undergone 1% or 10% of what Nigeria is passing through before they break up, they pack up, and so on, burn up in pieces. But God loves this country. I know that God has a plan for this country. But this present crop of promoters of democracy in Nigeria must quit the stage for real Nigerians, for patriotic Nigerians, for Nigerians that have conscience, for Nigerians that know that God exists, that power belongs to God, that this thing...
Are there such Nigerians?
So they are there, but they are not allowed into the political space, like my friend has said, because they are not money bags.
Okay, Dr. Anka, let's have your last word here. Is it the electoral body or the laws setting up the electoral body and the political institutions that need to be changed?
You see, for me, I think the electoral body needs to stand its ground. For the politicians, the so-called lawmakers in Abuja, they will never allow the right thing to be done because they are the beneficiaries of all this political rancor we are discussing now. If you expect a lawmaker to regulate the conduct of a political party in such a way that decency will be allowed to work, then they know majority of them in the National Assembly will be out of the political scene. So for me, the INEC need to rally around the support of critical stakeholders, the civil society, the media, and all those that matters, including the academic, to show reason why decency has to be put in the way political parties are registered and in the way their conduct is being managed in the country. Like the last speaker has spoken, money matters in promoting political party, not idea. But INEC has a bigger responsibility because of its level of neutrality and independence. I know it can reach a stage where it can force the so-called lawmakers to do what is expected of them in the overall interest of majority of Nigerians. But for me, leave the lawmakers aside. They are the major beneficiaries. And if you expect them to do the right thing, to allow for law that will guarantee freedom, law that will guarantee decency in the political conduct of political parties, they will never allow that. You are a witness to the political crisis that characterized even the so-called e-voting and e-election in the National Assembly. This is a system that is being proposed just to enhance the electoral process. But look
All right,
at how
Dr. Anka,
the
we
National
must
Assembly
go. We have
is
run out
divided
of time.
in between the
Thank
North
you
and
so
the
much
South,
for your
in between the
contributions.
PDP and the APC.
Yeah,
So,
Dr. Anna Sani Anka is of the Department of History and International Studies at the Federal University, Gusau in Zamfara State. It teaches comparative politics and international relations. Thank you so much for finding time to join us from your busy schedule. I understand that you had to cancel some classes today to be on this program. Thank you so much.
thank you very much.
Of course, Godi Ieng is a journalist turned politician. He's a local government chairman in Akwa Ibom State. Godi, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
And Alhaji Samaila Musa, public affairs analyst and director of strategy and programs, Coalition of Northern Groups. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And to you, our viewers out there, we want to thank you for investing your time with us. We'll see you again when we bring you a fresh edition of the program, People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.